wonder though if ours are.
I love this. Bravo.
This is Back to the Future, Black in Time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll tell you when to go to the next slide. You can go to the next slide now.
Which means when
So
they
when you
get
say black,
sorry.
so when you say black, okay, I'll just let you go. I'm sorry.
So it stars Zendaya as Gracie Wilson, the granddaughter of Goldie Wilson, who is the mayor of Hill Valley.
I hate you.
Yes, yeah, I know. She's an aspiring journalist and an activist, and her father, Goldie Wilson's son, is running for governor of California, but he loses to guess who? Go to the next one.
Is it Biff?
It's Bifton.
There you go.
It's Biff's son called Bifton, who wins. He's a racist and a white supremacist, and Gracie doesn't believe that he won fair and square. She thinks there was fraud. So she starts digging into all the people who allegedly voted for him and found out there were a bunch that were dead or didn't exist. One of them, you can go to the next slide. One of them's named Emmett Brown. She finds out that there's 2 cases of Emmett Brown, one in 1985, the other in 1885. Each one disappeared the same year, around the same age. They were both scientists. So she gets curious, and so she goes to his old house. Next one, please. And it's all abandoned because no one cares. It's falling apart. Next.
This is like a serious movie. Like they would do this.
Yeah.
Storyboard.
I can literally see them doing this exactly.
I wrote it like I'm an actual woke person.
Can we get Huey Lewis to do a cover of The Power of Love called The White Power of Love? That would be
that's pretty good.
But yeah, so she breaks in and she's looking around at all these books and she finds out there's a secret room. And so she opens up the room and finds out that there's a bunch of blueprints for the DeLorean. And of course she understands it because she's super smart.
She's a woman.
She sees that there are extra parts like a Mr. Fusion, and she finds a notebook that has Marty McFly's name on it. And so she looks up Marty McFly to find out what the hell's going on. And she goes to his house and he's like, I don't want anything to do with you. She's like, no, but I have proof. And she shows him the book with his name.
How did you get a non-blurred photo of him?
I would say the handwriting was really shaky, but I like yours better. I like yours.
I was going to say, how did he manage to open the door?
Simply CGI'd. Don't worry about it. So yeah, he opens the door and he invites her in, and he explains everything to her, and they start talking about how Bifton was inspired by a author called Anne Gland, who wrote a racist book called Atlas.
Anne Gland.
This was the inspiration behind Bifton and why he ran for governor, and he was going to run for president. And so they devise a plan to go back in time, and they're going to replace her books before she gives it up to the publisher with something that has diversity in it. And so Marty buys an old DeLorean, and go to the next one, please. Gracie starts working on the DeLorean. This is the montage moment where they play like some cool music.
Like some 80s music.
Yes. With the final touches on the new DeLorean, it's perfection, literal perfection.
Okay, it should have spinners on it. That's my only editor's note. I would put some spinners on it, maybe some big rims.
That'd be awesome. And so she goes back to 1965.
Is there a scene where they go to get the supplies at Best Buy and they just loot the place and no one can stop them? They let them take whatever electronics you like and they just walk in and out. Is that a scene?
It's in the movie.
So she parks her car out and sees a bus of downtrodden Negroes that comes up. And they invite her on. And you go to the next one. They're a bunch of sad black people. They're sad. They're not empowered. And so she gives this great speech empowering them. And then they take her to Hill Valley Square, and she's seeing her grandfather, Goldie Wilson, being bullied by some white people. And she goes over to him, and inspires him to become mayor because he says, I thought I could become a mayor, but there's too much racism, systemic racism. I can't do it. She goes, you are going to become mayor. And she is the inspiration behind him, not Marty McFly. She is. And so he takes her back to her car after giving her information about where Anne Glan lives. And so she ends up going to Anne Glan's house while Anne Glan is out and is going to break in and steal her manuscript. And you go to the next one. And she breaks in, and was there. She's looking at the pictures on the wall, and then she sees this. And John Wayne. Because Anne Glan is racist.
Oh no, the entire time.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, as
John Wayne.
Yeah, he's racist. Yeah.
Somebody
Same
said,
thing.
"Is that Geno on the wall?"
Oh, I wish I was that handsome. Come on now. He doesn't have a headband.
And then all of a sudden,
he
Anne
has an
Glan
armband, but not a headband.
Anne Glan shows up just as Gracie is leaving the house and starts shooting at her. And then Gracie runs a DeLorean, gets in, and drives off. And as she starts to drive off, she starts to say, can this bitch do 90? Well, she can't because he's an old truck. And then Gracie tries to go back in time, but then realizes the Mr. Fusion is broken. Oh, ain't going too fast. She realizes she can't go back in time because the Mr. Fusion got shot up. And so she thinks, oh, I'm going to need some electricity. So I'm going to have to go to the old McFrugal power plant that's in operation in 1965. And so she heads there and she thinks, I'm going to have to bring down one of these towers. So she speeds up, and right before she gets to the tower, she swerves out the way. Anne Glan hits it head on, crashes, bringing down one of the towers. Macy does a U-turn. Next one speeds up.
Everyone says the towers were an inside job. Am I right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And she hits the down power lines and goes back in time or to the future. And the next one, as she arrives, she sees Bifton. Bifton's now a homeless man.
That kind of looks like Jeremy from Good and Bad.
It does.
And he tells her that Anne Glan, this is the Anne Glan park because Anne Glan died that night. And after she gets a year from him, she drives off. And he knows she dropped something. Turns out it was a sketchbook that Christopher Lloyd's character, one with Doc Brown had. And so he picks it up and he goes, wait a minute, this is a time machine. Next one. Goes, I'm going to go back in time. And dun, 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 dun. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Well, bravo.
I would pay to see this movie.
So that was great. Could have probably stopped 9/11, but I like where you went with it.
Well,